the first fact or fiction question that I have for you guys. Georgia will win 3 straight SEC titles in 2026. Just to set the stage for you, Kirby Smart, obviously one of the greatest coaches to ever do it, is currently doing it. In a top 30 scoring offense last year, they returned at least some of their major pieces there. They were 35th in rushing last year, which was obviously the biggest factor in them really returning to full form, right? They couldn't run the ball 2 years ago. Last year, it was like, oh, hey, all of a sudden the ground game exists again. Gunnar Stockton, London Humphreys, Nate Frazier amongst the skill players back. They are a little bit younger along the offensive line. That'll be a storyline that we watch, I think, for a lot of teams across the country. It feels very centered in the SEC, but then again, we root for a team in the SEC. So, more on this space as it develops. And they have a ton of returning starters on defense as well. They've got one of my favorite transfers out of the portal in Jamarly Riddle, who comes over from East Carolina at safety. So with all of that, Garrett, let's start with you. Fact or fiction, Georgia makes it 3 straight in the SEC.
I really hate betting on one team against the field, especially as we sit here and it's not even tax day yet. Like we haven't quite made it through April. But I think this is fact, right? I think that Georgia's probably right now, if I had to bet Georgia versus the field, I think I'm okay betting Georgia right now. And a couple reasons why. I think they're just better than the rest of the league. A lot of the maybe top contenders also have kind of tricky schedules, right? You look at, like a Texas and Alabama, some of those teams, not necessarily easiest schedules for some of those teams. And Georgia's schedule, I think, is a lot more manageable. They got 4 brand new head coaches, not brand new to head coaching, but new coaches at their schools, and anywhere from 5 to 7 new quarterbacks breaking into different systems. And so I know obviously at some point in time through the year, it's not like they're a brand new quarterback, but this is still experience that they don't have. And having a quarterback who is in year one in your system, or if he's in year one at a new competition level, right? If he's making a jump from like a lower, difficulty conference or something like that. I think that still has to matter, especially when you consider the stability of Gunnar Stockton and what they have on their roster, what they have as a program. I do think Gunnar takes a big step forward. I'm a big believer in him. I know that it's not necessarily like shocking. I think the Georgia quarterback's pretty good, but we've seen what they've been able to do at Georgia with just like average quarterback play. I mean, they won a couple of championships with not necessarily like elite quarterback play. And Gunnar even has had them in the playoff and performing extremely well with kind of average play. But we've seen moments where he's jumped up and really elevated his game. If he can make that a more consistent thing, if he can be better more consistently this year, which is always the step that you're waiting for that younger quarterback to take, right? You're always waiting for him to say, okay, we've seen you flash. Can we keep it bright, right? Can we keep it good for the whole year? If he can do that, Dogs might be unstoppable this year, because I just think that that's the kind of level they can play at when they have a quarterback at that level. They've already proven it. They've won 2 in a row with, kind of, again, average-ish quarterback play. Why not 3 in a row if Gunnar gets a little better?
I know I'm supposed to take, or not supposed to, but it's more interesting listening if I take the opposite approach here, but I'm gonna go fact also. I'm if you're making me pick somebody in April, I'm gonna pick Georgia, because look, they got extremely unlucky in their 2 losses this year, right? And they're a bad 4th down decision away from coming back and beating Alabama. They got unlucky, I would say, in the second half, and just kind of got Trinidad chambliss in the 4th quarter of that Sugar Bowl against Ole Miss. And hey, if they beat Ole Miss, really going into the playoff, there was not a team in the entire country outside of Bloomington, Indiana, playing better than the Georgia Bulldogs. And they were my pick to win the national championship going into the playoff last year. And, that might not have worked out. I think Indiana was obviously a wagon. If they would have run into it, I would have loved to see that game. But no one in the country right now, to me, and definitely not in the SEC, has this year-over-year stability that Georgia has under Kirby Smart, right? Like for the past 2 years, they've been fighting and clawing against all odds to get to 10-2 and 11-1 against difficult schedules, bad quarterback play, like you said, Garrett, with Carson Beck's last year there, no running game, like you mentioned, Mitch, in 24, and then 25, a young team that was figuring out on defense for half the year, and then all of a sudden it clicked, and Kirby Smart looks like a freaking genius once again. So they had an older team this year. They are going to be now one of the most experienced teams in the SEC. And you guys have both touched on it, but the schedule takes a big step down compared to the last couple of years. Who really scares you on it, honestly? Like, yes, I think they go to Tuscaloosa and go to Oxford. Alabama is not the Alabama that it has been the last few years. Newsflash: Ole Miss is a new coach, a new full-time coach. They host Oklahoma as well. That's what Garrett and I touched on last week of how kind of up in the air Oklahoma is this year. So I think Georgia, if you have to put money on somebody, they have a lot going in their favor. Now, what I will say, what could bite them this year, is Kirby Smart going to be the one coach that has not fully bought into the portal that it actually works out for? Because they are 14th in the SEC out of 16 teams in the portal rankings this year. And so I don't know, like, he's betting on his dudes and he's betting on the guys in that building. Yes, he's not going full Dabo and not taking any transfers. He's patching a few holes where he needs to, but he's certainly not going all in like most of the other contenders in the conference are.
Yeah, we'll talk about wide receiver cores with another team on this Fact or Fiction list. I wonder if Georgia has the giddy up out wide to truly be elite on the offensive side. We'll see. I mean, London Humphreys is great. They always get outstanding production from the tight end position, but outside of that, who's going to be that next guy that steps up and makes a big time impact, who makes you fear them no matter where they are on the field? That's a big question for me. The other thing I'll point to, two interesting notes. One, I had no idea that the cocktail party against Florida was now in Atlanta this year. What is the Invesco QQQ?
Yeah, get
Atlanta
its name right.
Gridiron Classic. Dude, puts on QQQ for that. That's just disrespectful.
They are going all in on Atlanta sports. I was watching a Georgia Tech baseball game the other night, and they're front and center behind home
disgusting.
Plate. But they're renovating whatever the stadium in Jacksonville is called, TIAA Bank, I think is.
But I thought Jacksonville was playing all home games. Where are they playing their home games?
I think they're playing in Orlando now. Like, I think they're at Camping World or whatever it is down there. So they're
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that could be interesting. But yeah, I was gonna say, Trey, you had an interesting point. Just kind of about the whole, like, is he going to be able to succeed without like the portal? Because it's funny, if you're going to bet on any roster, I'd probably bet on Georgia, right? Like, there's a lot of good rosters out there. Georgia's got one of the best rosters you got, but I mean, you're absolutely right that, like, how can you think in today's day and age that you can just bet on that? It's kind of like what you're saying. It's like the Dabo on steroids thing, and obviously it's harder to do because you're playing in the SEC, for better or worse. Like, we'll talk about the ACC in a second, but it's not exactly a juggernaut of a conference. SEC is a lot harder to win. The thing I think that helps his case for this is their schedule's a little lighter, but it's also spread out. Like, there's not like a really tough 2 or 3 game stretch for Georgia on this one. So I think if you're looking at Georgia, you're thinking, like, can they string some stuff together? Can they maybe focus a little bit on one spot? Like, do you think that Oklahoma's a tough game? Maybe. Well, what do they have right before that? Well, it's Arkansas, and then you follow with Vanderbilt. And so it's like, okay, well, depends on what you think about Vanderbilt this year. Then you get Alabama, but then it's back to Auburn. So it's like, okay, I know that Auburn's a big deal. That's a bigger, kind of rivalry game, not the same quality of opponent necessarily. And then you get a bye week before that Florida game. And then it just, there's a lot of different kind of gaps in this schedule where they can get a little bit of momentum, weather a storm, even if they're not quite there, right? Even if the roster's not quite there or something, that they can still weather. And then the close is easy. If you think, Ole Miss is, a little bit tough maybe, but Missouri at South Carolina, and then Georgia Tech, who's pretty depleted at this. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's a pretty easy close for them.
Listen, the Shane Beamer apologists will spin the fact that Cocktober is a total sham, but they're actually decent in November. So
I want a South Carolina apologist to approach me in public and have that conversation with me, because I have no idea who you are as a person if you still think that South Carolina is like humming as a program.
There are dozens of them, and they are just weeks away from emerging from their hibernation.
Yes.
Oh, I can hear them. Here they come.
They come out every single year, no matter how good or bad they were the past season. There's the hope.